And I want to put this question like, since we were talking about the corporate culture in itself, why should a person or a student work in Nepal rather than in the US or somebody, because a lot of people might be striving for that 100K salary, 200K salary. Why work in Nepal?
Fair enough, right? So there's two aspects to this question, and I want to answer that separately. Sabanda पहिला त forget Nepal for a while. I think everybody should strive to get more exposure. And exposure will come from working for different companies, working in different projects, working with different people. So I mean, you could work in Nepal, you could work in India, you could work in US, but try to get as much exposure as possible, because getting more exposure and getting more experience makes you a better engineer. Number one. Number two, don't just chase the numbers. Salary obviously about $100,000, $200,000 in the US, sounds a lot more than, let's say, $20,000 US dollars in Nepal.
True.
Fair enough. It's 5 times, 10 times more US. You also should factor in the cost of living there. If you do an app, it's really not a very fair comparison comparing like $20,000 and $100,000. What I know for sure is your $20,000 in Nepal actually in real purchasing power is more than the $100,000 in the US. Because after tax, after living expenses and all that, like you're not going to have a lot saved anyways. Right? So I would not chase the numbers. I think you should ultimately think about what is your goal. Is your goal to basically be a much, much, much better engineer that could walk into any company in the world? Then you should strive towards that. Is your goal towards actually create your own company and provide a lot of jobs? You should work on that direction. I think getting hung up in salary is going to be a detriment to your getting there. Goal, so Malai चाहिँ के थियो भने अब obviously like whenever I worked in like Oracle, D2Akai, Deerwalk and all that, salary was always a secondary consideration. It was an important consideration. I wanted to be paid equal to what I felt I should get. The money was always secondary to basically either learning more, getting better network connections, so that like ultimately मलाई के थियो भने पहिलेदेखि आफ्नो company चाहिँ खोल्नु पर्छ है भनेको थियो हैन. So I was always looking with that goal in mind. For example, म D2Akai मा गए हैन, अनि I was doing my part. I always wanted to, like मेरो एउटा चाहिँ fundamental belief के छ भने when somebody gives me a work, he already has a mind, or he already has it in his mind. कति टाइम लाग्छ त्यसको, कसरी म गर्थे भनेर हैन. And the output that I provide has to at least be better than that. त्यो mindsetले actually like always drew me to harder work and better output. And I think my colleagues, my higher ups respected that. अनि म D2Akai हुँदा I actually wanted to just, I would just get some time with people that I admired or that I looked up to and wanted to talk to them, whether that is drinks, whether that is lunch. So Russ Richmond, he was the CMO. Surya थियो, he was the vice president. And Nathan Theo, he was also a vice president. And all of these are ex-McKinsey people, but I found them to be very smart. And I made an effort to connect with them, talk to them, and just like be friends with them. It so happens that 3 of these are now my clients. They're all like our largest clients. So you don't know how things will circle back in your life. It always pays to be in the company of good people, smart people. And once even in a company, the best way to go abroad is to go to the higher levels, is to ride the coattails of a good manager. So
while working, let's suppose you sometimes when you work in these corporate houses, you're so caught up in the next goal. Let's suppose company has a certain goal and you're so caught up in that goal that you as you said, you wanted to open up a company, right? So how did you carve that path in terms of like taking a step back and being like, now I want to start a company? Because you already have, let's suppose, a good salary and a good lifestyle. What made you push to that next level of like, I want to start a company, even if it takes my lifestyle to, let's suppose, a step back?
Again, different people have different ways to cope with that, right? Different ways to manage that. Mero case ma ke थियो भने, for me, I always had that goal in mind, and at least I had the capability to step back, at different points and say where am I in terms of my goal, I could very well be working in D2Akai for the next 10 years, or Oracle for the next 10 years. Nobody was pushing me out neither. तर त्यो एउटा चाहिँ I think at least I had that perspective है, त्यो छ. अब Richard Feynmanले भनेको छ नि होइन के अरे you should never के अरे fool yourself and you are the easiest one to fool भनेर भन्छ नि त होइन है so you can always tell whatever story you want to tell yourself होइन for me it was very के अरे apparent that I wanted to start my own company होइन and I made it clear to everybody मेरो आफ्नो म्यानेजरले भनेको थिएँ D2Kमा पनि होइन कुनै दिन त म आफ्नो कम्पनी खोल्छु है होइन and then like to all the people that I spoke about a little while ago Raz I don't know Chris Kreider whoever होइन the CEO Chris Kreider होइन भन्दै I have to open my own company someday and the fact that I was very open about it people respected that okay होइन in fact like मेरो one of the के अरे co-founders of D2K ended up being my co-founder in Deerwalk and I mean I was there for a year when it started होइन उहाँ र म र रामदाई भन्ने हुनुहुन्थ्यो तिनजनाले co-found गरे हो okay होइन the fact that I was open about it actually helped and people and in fact होइन अब रुद्र हुनुहुन्थ्यो D2Kमा he actually gave me opportunities it's like if you're thinking about opening a company this will help you having all of these perspectives right
So in terms of in the US, how hard is it to have a safety net in terms of relationships? Because यहाँको सबभन्दा नेपालमा सबभन्दा I think rich culture is like people help you. Family हुन्छ. How hard is that to make in terms of बाहिर when you work in a let's suppose a country where हुन्छ नि cultures don't actually align and they have a different culture than us. They're more individualistic होइन त्यसको बेलामा चाहिँ how hard is it to maintain those kind of relationship or make those relationship that help you found a company or do the next step?
I mean, let's divide that into two parts. You know, one is the social side of things and the other is the work side of things, you know, professional side of things. You know? Social side ma, I mean, America has a certain culture, you know, and I don't think you're going away from that. For me, I had a lot of friends, but I went to school about a so that basically became the social safety net for me, you know. So I was very close to my friends, right? So theoda थियो. But beyond that, everybody's working, you know, 40 hours a week, right? I mean, are they available on a weekday? I mean, unless there's an emergency, people are busy on their own lives, you know. And you kind of get used to that as well, the rhythm pani. I don't think you can replicate the social safety net in Nepal in the US. You just make do with it, you know. I mean, there are friends that you go out to. I think all of us Nepali, we always take like that culture of ours, that social safety net to a certain degree in the US money, you know. Let's say if you were to go to the US, I'm sure you'll have friends, families and all that, you know, that you can count upon. Now, are they going to be available for you the way they are available in Nepal? No. Yeah, but I think that's okay with that. Arko चाहिँ professional safety net, you know, that's up to you Anjuma, you know. किनभने some of it is like, I mean, how you progress in your professional life. How, I mean, whether you want to start a company, that's up to you, you know. You have to be able to, I mean, be that person that people will gravitate towards, will help you because, I mean, that's up to you, right? In my case, I mean, I had some people that I can use as a sounding board. I went to my friends for like the initial set of money that we needed, you know. And like because my relationship was that strong, because at least I could inspire that confidence and people have that trust in me, they put that money in right? That's up to you. Right? But again, people are generally very helpful. Both, I mean, Nepali Arupani, but even my friends like that were not Nepali that I worked with, my colleagues and all that, they were very forthcoming.
Because you were a Nepali working in the US, has that ever been a let's suppose has that ever been a problem for like going to the next step? Because I've heard stories of people just who have faced racism to some degree. Has that ever been in your case?
Not overtly, you know. I would say that. And again, a lot of it is probably up to you, Pani. Okay? I also saw, you know, I'm sure there's certain degree of like a latent racism when people deal with you. I mean, I just choose to ignore that, you know. If you don't even acknowledge it, like what is it going to do to the other person, right? In professional life, I haven't encountered it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure like there are people who probably thought that they will never voice it in front of me, you know. If I ignore that, what does it matter, you know? For me, it's like, okay, here's what I want. You know, a project wala, sales wala, you know, or whatever. Like I'm trying to hire somebody wala, you know. I would look at like, let's take that as an objective. What's the best way to achieve that? You know, I was sales over and say, okay, who knows this person? How could I influence him? You know? Is it me? Is it like my friend, or is it my friend of a friend? You know? So that's the way we like. I think I'm pretty objective about. Getting things done. Whatever the best thing that is, that will get the thing done. That's what we'll go for. You know. There have been instances that I would call. Like, I would say those are racisms. You know. But again, those are not in the professional life, and I choose to ignore them.
Mm-hmm.